All right. Well, today we are learning how to draw water drops. So we're going to go over the steps to make that happen. So on your assignment sheet, you're going to have something that looks similar to this. And it'll come in handy, but we're not going to follow it exactly. I've changed up the order just a tad bit. Okay, so this is my first example. All right, so what you're going to need is you're going to need 3 pencils. I'm going to use an HB, a 4B, and a 10B. So this is going to be what I use to do my initial drawing and my initial shading. My 4B is going to be my mid-tone shades, and then my 10B is going to be my darker shades. These I made with an HB, a 2B, and a 9B. And then you're going to need a white colored pencil. So I have a bunch of different white colored pencils here. And I kind of put a little sample of them. This one is my Blick. Nope, not that one. This one is a Blick Studio. This is probably what you'll get from me in class to borrow. Okay, you can tell it's fairly white. Not perfect, but it gets the job done. So this is the one that you will be using, unless you have Prismacolor at home. I tried a Crayola crayon, or this is their twistable colored pencil. Definitely not good coverage. So I would say, unless you don't have anything else, don't use Crayola. The third one is Prismacolor. This one will get you almost white. So if you have Prismacolor, if you have a Prismacolor white colored pencil, this is the one to use. If you don't, it's okay. I'm going to give most of you a Blick in class. I don't have quite enough, but we'll make it work. So if you have a Prismacolor at home and you don't need to borrow my Blick, then use a Prismacolor, because that will get you, that's almost white. It's got the best white coverage of all colored pencils that you have access to. Then this one is a gel pen, and I don't know if you have gel pens at home or not. If you do, you're welcome to do that. These ones, I don't know if you can see it, but I highlighted the little dots with the white gel pen. These I did not, so you can tell the difference. So you're welcome to use a gel pen for just just dotting. You just want to use just a tiny little bit. You don't want to do all the shading. That won't work. And then I have a charcoal. This is actual just a white charcoal pencil. If you have it, go ahead and use it. But we'll probably be using the colored pencil. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our HB and we're going to draw just some organic shapes. Now for your assignment, I want you to do between 15 and 20 drops. So kind of make a composition. You can do, the big drip. We'll put the big drip down here. Okay, so again, we're going to draw light. And we're going to use the toned paper this time. It turns out much nicer on the toned paper. You don't have to do quite as much work. And then we're going to, like I said, I'm not going to do the full assignment, but we're going to get our, let's see, I've got a bunch up here already. So this can count towards my 20. Water droplets aren't always exactly perfect. Some are, but these are kind of organic shapes. So then I'm going to put some smaller ones in here. Make it a little more realistic, like something spilled. I did these little ones and they're really hard. They're not, I don't think I would stick with probably this size, maybe that size. I wouldn't go any smaller. Maybe not until you get really good at them. And these are just rough drafts. Once I start coloring, then we'll get the shapes set a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. So the first thing I'm going to do, according to this, we're going to add our little shadow up here, or a little highlight. So my light source, again, is coming from right here. Make sure that's on camera. Yep, my light source is coming down. So I'm just going to keep going since this is just going to be my composition. So I'm going to put a little highlight here. And some of them I put two. You can put a little second one. And we're just lightly adding these in. I'm going to make them a little bigger than I really want them. And I'll show you why. This one I'm going to put 3. And so my light source is coming this way. I just want to remember that. Okay, so there's my light source. So if you were to follow the directions on this, it would have you add some shadows in first. But the way I tried it, I like the effect better when I add my white in first. So I'm going to color my little highlights and take my white colored pencil and I'm going to fill in all my little highlights. I probably don't need to do all of these on camera, otherwise it might take too long. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to add in all my highlights. And then, oops, I didn't do this one. All right, so this is coming this way, so it's going to kind of be right there. All right, and then water does not act the same way as a solid sphere like we drew last week or the week before. A solid sphere, the light kind of rolls around it, whereas water, the light travels through it. And so you have a highlight and your water or your light is going in here and it's reflecting here. So this is the refraction from the highlight. So it's all illuminated right at the back of it. So our light source is here. So my highlight, I'm going to come in and I'm going to kind of do circular motions and add my white on the opposite end of my highlight. Okay, I'm going to do that for all of them. Now, if you want to get real technical, you're also going to have kind of a highlight right here. But I'm not worried about that. If the advanced students want to do that, you go right ahead. Those of you new to art, don't worry about this little reflected. Ooh, you want to get really crazy, you could do a heart. I just noticed there's a heart down there. So add in your white reflected light. Little circles is going to give you the most coverage. Okay, so on the water droplet, I'm going to kind of do this whole little base here. Okay, and there is going to be some refraction back there. Okay. Now you do not need to go as fast as I am. I'm just trying to get all of these done. All right, so we're done with that for now. We're done with the white. Now we're going to add in our first layer of shadow. So that is going to be right up by the highlight. So I have my HB again, and I'm just kind of bringing in my shadows around the highlight. Nothing crazy. I'm going to come down because it's spherical. I mean, it's a rounded shape. And then I'm going to come on the back side and I'm going to add in my little shadows. Now, shadows come to kind of a little triangular because it's rounded, so it's kind of got it's kind of got a pointier reflection. So I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, because these are laying flat on the surface. They're not like a sphere. They're not sitting up. They're flat. And so they just have a little teeny bit of a shadow that comes around them. So again, I'm just kind of filling in my, these will eventually be my midtones. We still have darker shadows to add in. So I go all the way around the highlight, and then I'm going to fade it into the white. I kind of leave a little oval shape in the center, and I'll show you how we deal with that in a second. Okay, I added white to this one, so I'm just going to kind of bring that shadow to a little bit of a point there. Okay, light touch. Again, most of drawing you want a pretty light touch. There's only a few times where you're going to go pretty heavy-handed. All right, let me do this water droplet. So again, we're going to shadow. Now you wouldn't think that you would shadow on the side of the light, but if you look at water, that's how the reflection works, and the refraction of light. All right. And then this is gonna kind of all right. So this, if you start out on one, by your last water droplet, you will be golden. You'll be doing good. So the first one might look a little rough. Don't worry about that. By the time you get to your last water droplet, I think you'll have mastered it. All right, so this time we're going to take our Q-tip or cotton swab, whatever you'd like to call it, and we are going to start in the white. I'm going to do little circular motions. It's going to soften it quite a bit, and then I'm going to go over that mid-tone and I'm going to drag it down. Okay, you see that? So I kind of dirtied up that middle a little bit, and I just kind of blended it in. I'm going to do the same under here. Okay, so again, I'm going to find a clean spot. I'm going to start on the white and do little swirls, bring it up, and then I'm going to go around. I'm trying to go around the highlight. I don't really want to dirty that at all, but it might get dirty, and we can always go in and add a little more white to brighten it up. Okay, and we're going to soften that and that one. Kind of the same thing. I'm just kind of finding a clean spot. And those little ones, I kind of just go over the whole thing. They seem to just blend really nice. This little one. I'm going to drag some of that graphite down. Okay, you can already see them start to pop. They get even better once you start adding the shadows in. And I will switch to a blending stump eventually. So yeah, just a little bit of practice and you will have these. These are lots of fun. I don't think I've ever drawn water before, but these are great, and they're pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. And you can already kind of see that looks pretty water-like to me. Find a clean spot and just kind of roll it around. And then I might even take some off. Find my clean spot. Okay, and drag some of that down in there. Just kind of dirty it up. Make sure we're still rolling. Yep. All right. All right. So looking good so far. We've only used one pencil. Now we're going to take our 4B and we are going to kind of darken up our midtones a little bit. So I'm going to kind of darken this top end a little bit and not so much, just right around there. Okay, and then I'm going to darken down here a little bit. And I'm going to drag that out a little. I don't want quite as much as what I put in for the midtone. Now we're starting to get into the shadows. Okay, so a little bit. And then I'm going to do... Now I want that separation between that white reflection and my shadow. Okay. That looks like a crabby monster. Okay, get that base in there. So they don't take very long. That's why I want you to do 15 to 20, and I will count. Just know that, I will. I don't like docking points, but I don't think it does you any favors to not do it. I think it's important for you to learn not only how to use the tools properly, but how to follow instructions. Art is pretty lenient. There's not a whole lot of rules that you really have to follow. But once you get good with your tools, then you can break the rules a little bit more. All right, I'm going to kind of establish this a little bit. Oh, I got that reflection there. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of an undershadow on that one. So I'm going to drag that out a little bit. And if your Q-tip gets too dirty, just grab a new one. All right, so now I'm going to start using my blending stump because I want this a little more controlled than a Q-tip. A Q-tip, there's not a whole lot of control. It just kind of smears everywhere. Okay, with this, I have some semblance of control. And I'm just trying to just soften that up a little bit. Now, if you are one of my or someone who's taken art a few times, if you want to put, you know, some water droplets on a leaf or on a flower, you are more than welcome to do that. I still would like quite a few. I don't want just one or two. If you're going to do it on an object, I still want quite a few water droplets. But for those who are just going to do a page of water droplets, it needs to be 15 to 20 of them. And I do like to use the little circles. I think that, seeing as it's a more cylindrical object, the little circles just seem to fit better. All right. What do you think? You guys seeing it? Are you seeing the water take shape? It's kind of fun to have that just happen on your paper. Now here's where the magic happens. Now we're going to take I'm taking my 10B, and we're going to use this sparingly. And we are going to come along this edge right here. And this edge. Okay, and then we're going to blend that. So we're going to go far edge where the highlight is, and then the opposite edge where the refracted light is. Right, so highlighted edge and refracted edge. And you can drag it down just a little bit if it'll move. So this is like on the underside of the drop, where the drop is curved and then it meets the table or the surface. That's where this dark, dark, dark shadow is going. So this is really underneath the water. Same with this, but it's harder to imagine that. This is really where it's curved over. You're not actually seeing the surface on this one as much as you are on this side. Okay, so over the top and then under the bottom, and then soften. The softening is really what does it. If I were to just draw this line like that and leave it, you don't really see it, but it's the softening with the blending stump, or I don't even know if a paintbrush would do it. I think really the blending stump is the winner here. Yep. I'm just going to soften that edge up. Drag out those ends so they're not just a harsh, blunt end. All right, so then the water droplet, we're going to have our dark here on the front, and then on the back, and then where it meets the table. I'm just going to kind of bring it all the way. I'm just going to soften those. I might drag this down just a little bit more. Kind of a triangular shape into that. So these just take practice. The more you do, the better you get at them. They're loads of fun. All right, a couple more here. I'm gonna leave those that I didn't even do because, you know, my last video was a little bit long. I apologize for that. For those of you who watched it to the end, bravo. And I'm gonna soften that just a little bit more with my dark. And you can do that. You can drag it just a little bit more. Make it look a little more curved. This one didn't want to. All right. So now I can, if I want, if I feel like they're not bright enough, I can go back in and just kind of add a little more brightness if I want that. The highlight got a little, you know, blurry or smudgy because I went over it with, now this Blick one, it probably won't write over, it won't go over the graphite very well. The Prismacolor would. So if you have a Prismacolor at home, if anybody has one, anyone who's taken art before probably has the Prismacolor at home, because I think the other art teacher had you buy that as your kit. I did not, because we were trying to keep the price low. So yeah, I'll show you what this looks like with the Prismacolor. I'll do it on this one. Okay, so this will write right over the graphite, and this will really give me a bright. The problem is you could get too white. So even this highlight, I can really make that stand out. Okay, but for you guys, we're going to use the Blick because that's what I have enough of. All right, we can also use, I'll show you the gel pen. So you can also use the gel pen if you want to do your highlight. You could add some highlights down here if you want, but I really prefer the look of, we could do some little hatching. I prefer the look of the colored pencil. It's easier to control. The gel pen, it just lays down what it lays down. You really have no control over it. So yeah, so there is our project. I know it's not really an art project, but if you take a whole piece of paper and you lay out some water droplets, you know, maybe you have it like coming down, you know, a window where it's just raining and you have drops of water and some running down, I think that'd be pretty cool. So 15 to 20 water droplets. Work on shading, blending. Use your 3 pencils and a Q-tip and your blending stump and a white colored pencil, and see what you come up with. I'm really excited to see them. So I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you on Monday.